Thanks, everybody. It's really nice to be able to talk about a project I've been working on for a couple of years now with a group of really awesome people. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the framework for open and reproducible research training, or affectionately FORRT, in which we are kind of largely focused on the question of what we can do to support the teachers, the instructors, the mentors that are really kind of driving things in open and reproducible research towards, I guess, supporting and nurturing the next generation of researchers, citizen scientists, and I guess the informed kind of public in a way. An awful lot of kind of work, especially early on within reproducibility, was very focused on how we can kind of upskill researchers themselves, or kind of focus on improving specific research practices, for example. And we very much felt that sort of teaching was being missed, especially given that teachers themselves within academia are so kind of highly pressured within this system. So upskilling, finding all of these new practices and then trying to teach them is a huge burden for teachers to kind of bear. So really we're kind of interested in how we can support teachers to integrate these principles of open and reproducibility within their teaching, but also how we can hopefully kind of in the academic system to also support, incentivize, and reward that. So in many ways, FORRT itself is our kind of love letter to open and reproducible research teachers. Two of our kind of main goals are to create a platform in which teaching resources, and particularly the pedagogy that surrounds them, so kind of going beyond sharing, for example, the slide deck or a syllabus, and really kind of fleshing that out with the assignments, the student expectations, the kind of everything that kind of goes on behind the scenes in order to be able to reuse and adapt teaching materials to hopefully make kind of implementing some of these practices easier, or at the very least to allow teachers to kind of stand on the shoulders of giants, as we kind of hope that we're doing within research as well. We also kind of aim to be essentially an advocacy group for this, whether that's through the things that we're writing, whether that's through ensuring that this platform is there to support teachers. Because what we kind of tend to see, particularly in the research-oriented institutions, that teaching is kind of a bit of a side focus for, I think, a lot of people, and that then puts the pressure on those that are really invested in bringing these practices both into the more methods teaching, but also incorporating these practices into more subject-specific training. So we're kind of really interested in supporting people for that. Now, I was lucky enough to give an introduction to FORRT last year at the first of the Open Research Working Group meetings. And it's really nice to kind of give essentially an update in the last, say, year and a half or so. So we've got a number of achievements that I'm extremely proud of our community for putting together. So I'll give a couple of quick summaries of these, but they're also all going to be on the website soon, so that will be a good place to look. So the website itself has had a huge overhaul, in no small part. That also relates to the database of resources that we've put together. So this is I think somewhere in the region of 1,000 resource strong, pertaining to openness, reproducibility, and kind of a range of practices involved in there. At the minute, it's largely focused on, in a way, kind of teaching yourself or resources to provide for your students. Very, very soon, we're going to be beginning to collect the actual pedagogy themselves, in order to have those teaching materials available as well. The FORRT manuscript itself has been pre-printed for, I want to say, about a year now. And we submitted a few kind of abstracts based on that. And we're going to continue to revamp that manuscript into papers to really kind of give the why we need more incentives, more infrastructure around teaching openness and reproducibility, as well as more specifically on this project itself. We have a self-assessment tool that's largely there to help instructors kind of benchmark their particular courses in the kinds of openness and reproducibility practices that they have already implemented or maybe could implement within their teaching. The idea being that that should then point towards the resources page eventually, so that there's a nice way to kind of see what can be done, what can be implemented, and what has been implemented in other courses. As part of that, we hope to use that as part of our advocacy. So collecting data on the kinds of practices that are being widely taught, on kind of where a lot of this teaching is happening, because it's kind of always been an ethos of ours that the institutions that are really kind of teaching openness, reproducibility as a standard are really kind of the institutions that are embodying openness and reproducibility above and beyond having individual researchers, for example. One of our community members has put together a really big document. So 100 summaries of open and reproducible science literature is a really nice, broad introduction to a lot of openness and reproducibility, and we hope to be releasing that very soon as one of the kind of FORRT products. If you're interested in a longer introduction to the project, the videos for our 2 workshops at the International Communications Associations Conference are on our YouTube channel. And with the support of UKRN, we also put out a briefing note for degree accrediting societies that we hope to revisit to kind of continue our advocacy work to promote this kind of teaching practices as being part of the standard. Wouldn't it be nice if the BPS mandated as part of the BPS accreditation that all students had to at least be taught heavily about openness and reproducibility? Wouldn't that be just beautiful? So briefly, as a highlight to the website itself, our curated list of or the database of resources. Here is an example. It's probably one of the, I had nothing to do with this. This is not a self-brag. This is one of the nicest systems I've seen for searching through potential resources. It will have another layer of tags pretty soon. The minute it's kind of organized by the principles that we set up early on. Each of the resources then has its own page that we're going to continue to layer with more and more information to again, give more support to the teachers themselves. Now, none of this would be possible without the amazing and growing community of FORRT. And one of the biggest achievements I see is that the vast majority of the achievements I've talked about have happened since May. During lockdown, I've been really impressed and heartened by the effort that people have been putting into this project and into trying to support teachers. It's amazing. So we have a number of teams, and I'm bringing these up largely because we want to invite all of you to take part and help support our teachers. So we have teams working on the pedagogies, working on developing the manuscripts for publication, continuing to support and build the website, as well as working on the outreach to kind of share the work that's being done and the amazing resources that are being put out there. We're aiming to have a mentorship kind of scheme in which students and mentors can sign up to help give more kind of external input on openness and reproducibility issues. And there's so many things you can get involved in. So I'm gonna kind of end just by saying thank you for for listening. I hope that some of you will be interested in taking part. If you teach openness and reproducibility, you can submit your teaching resources. The idea is that then they'll be findable, DOIable, and kind of useful in that respect. Probably the most important link here is the tiny URL to our Slack channel, where we kind of do most of our communication. You're very welcome. We'd like to have anybody that appreciates the open and reproducible research kind of teachers out there as much as we do.